UDL and supports for learners with special needs. Parker Middle School. So I have used a pseudonym in order to ensure the privacy of all teachers in the school and the students. So Parker Middle School is from a rural town about 30 minutes west of Boston. It has approximately 650 students from Parker Middle School, and of those 650 students, 104 of those students are diagnosed with some sort of a disability, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, or learning disability. The breakdown of the student population is 87.5% are from Caucasian race, 6% are Hispanic race, and 3 to 4% are of a mixed or other race. Now, whether that's African American race, Asian race, Indian race, or any other race or ethnicity. We also have Portuguese at this school, but of a mixed population, that's too small to list. And out of that, there's also 3.5% are considered English language learners, which breaks down to about 22 students. So I did my observations at Parker Middle School in the 6th grade class, social studies classroom in the morning from 9:37 to 10:30 a.m. And there were 18 students in the social studies classroom in this block. And 14 of the students were Caucasian. There was also 1 Portuguese, 1 Hispanic, 1 Indian, and 1 African American descent. The desks were arranged really well in this classroom, with desks set up in groups of 3 to 4 to facilitate peer-to-peer discussion and group work. There were posters all over the classroom that were from different countries and different backgrounds and different cultures, which really helped to facilitate CRP and was very welcoming. Unfortunately, there was no technology displayed in the room, which really wasn't the social studies teacher's fault. This was because a policy from Parker Middle School that iPads have to be stored within the technology room. However, the social studies teacher could reserve the iPads from the technology room and have them taken out for specific classes, which the social studies teacher often would do for those students who would need it, and sometimes just for the entire class he would use the iPads. The social studies teacher had a very organized classroom with extra materials, very neat, very clean, very tidy. And as you can see, as I wrote here, he was a young male, and he related very well with his students. He was very engaging. This was his first year teaching, and he was very energetic and just really liked to joke around with his students, but also was able to sit down and have a lesson with them when needed. I also did my second observations in the science classroom, which was also a 6th grade classroom. This took place in the afternoon from 12:30 to about roughly 1:30. They also had 18 students with the same ethnicity makeup. She was a female teacher who had been teaching at Parker Middle School for approximately 10 years, so she was a middle-aged teacher with a decent amount of experience. She was very organized. She liked to have everything neat and tidy. She had her desk groups in groups of 4 as well, which really helped peer discussion. She led very good hands-on lessons. For example, when she did sound waves, she had the students draw pictures of the objects that made different sounds and had them hit on the objects with different hands and what pitches the sounds would make. And it just really helped because different students are hands-on learners, and different students are good at drawing, and different students are good at writing. And so then she would have them write in the notebooks what they heard, and then she had them discuss with themselves what they thought they heard and any patterns they found in the objects, whether smaller objects made higher pitches or larger objects made lower pitches or vice versa. So it was very good. A downside was she liked a very quiet room, so no student could ever be talking, which, unless it was for peer-to-peer discussion during a specific activity. Other than that, it had to be complete silence. So I based my paper off of 5 strategies to incorporate UDL in the classrooms, and these strategies focused on how is the class climate like, the interactions with your students, both peer-to-peer as well as peer-to-teacher, the physical environment of the classroom itself, the delivery method and how the teacher is able to change around the lessons so that they fit different students, and the accommodations, i.e. basically the modifications for different students. So I then took the 5 strategies to incorporate UDL, and I did an analysis of both the social studies classroom and the science classroom. And the class climate for the social studies classroom was very diverse and inclusive. He had posters all over the room. He taught about all different kinds of cultures. He used CRP. And it was just very great how he did it. His interactions as an educator were great. He listened to his students and would sit down with them one-on-one while they were all doing their work. He also was a role model for his students and a disciplinarian when he needed to be. This in turn caused the students to both respect him as an educator, but to also enjoy his classes as well, which I think is very important to getting the students to learn. The physical environment was welcoming with posters, also had books and the way the desks were set up. Unfortunately, though, a con was there was very little technology, and also there was very bright light. And so one thing I want to call to attention is that there was an article that I incorporated into my actual paper, is that the physical environment of a classroom is often something that is overlooked when designing an inclusive classroom, especially for students who have special needs. However, multiple studies have found that proper soft lighting, comfortable seating, and even the smell can play a role in how conducive a classroom is to its learning. So that was an article by Paula Clough, 2018. So that's why physical environment is also included in UDL in the analysis of my observations. Also, for delivery method, he had multiple ways for students to engage in his lessons. He used posters, he used typing, he used plays, he used all different kinds. He didn't just sit there and teach from a book. And accommodations, he always modified the student work for those who needed it, whether it was decreasing the work or slightly changing the work. So the analysis of the science classroom, the class climate, was she definitely welcomed diversity. I can't say that she didn't. She was very happy to have any student in her classroom. Her interactions, though, however, although she did have peer-to-peer discussions, she liked a quiet classroom. This often was difficult when you had students with disabilities in her classroom, because sometimes you had a hard time telling them to sit quietly, because sometimes we had students with stereotypy that just could not sit quietly because of their stereotypy, as well as just sometimes you need to facilitate classroom talking and interactions, and sometimes the students would be afraid to speak because she would be telling them constantly to sit quietly. So that was a con. Her physical environment was very good for UDL. She had large desks for classwork, open aisles for people to get by, which was conducive for those students who were in wheelchairs, and good lighting, good soft natural lighting. Her delivery method, I do have to say, was great for UDL. Again, like I had mentioned before with her sound wave lessons, she also used a prism lesson with hands-on prisms and the natural light that came from the windows for UDL. She used PowerPoints, she used iPads. It was really good for incorporating multiple ways for engagement. accommodations, unfortunately, she did not modify work. She would simply hand it over to the special education teacher and just tell them, here, you need to modify the work, and the lead special ed teacher would have to do the modifications, which is definitely a con, because I think that it's important for all general ed teachers who are leading an inclusive classroom to know how to modify work. But other than that, I believe that is important, and for all teachers to know how to incorporate UDL into their classroom. Thank you.